G'day there, Aussie Stone here from Down Under, a country Victorian gamer of Star Wars, Armada, Legion, X-Wing, Battletech, Flames of War, Dystopian Wars, Blood Bowl, Necromunda, many other games. As you can see from the title, today here in Australia is the 14th of June 2024. And over in America, they have just released the news that they will no longer, AMG that is, will no longer be producing any future development of the games of X-Wing and Star Wars Armada. Two games that I have played for a long time and have really enjoyed. Do I like this news? No. Do I think that suddenly I'm going to have to toss out my entire collection? No. Is it dead? No. And those people that think that it may be dead, let's put some things in perspective. I'm an old gamer. I am currently mid-40s as of 2024. I've gone through games quite a lot. I have played lots of different games over the years. Some of the games that I've played include a game developed by a company called Decipher that no longer is around anymore, which was Star Wars CCG. It was a card game. And it was really, really good. They closed down somewhere, I believe around about the 2003. It was just about the same time as basically episode 1 had been released, but before episode 2 was released of the prequels of the Star Wars movies. And it was a really good game. Everyone loved it. There were competitions throughout the world for it, and still is 20 years later. And the main reason why it's still going strong is that a community of gamers over in Europe got together and said, we don't want to stop this game. We want to continue it. How can we continue this game? So they got online, did the research that they could. They even got some of the developers online to help them to bring forward ideas and concepts from the expanded universe. They also brought forward things like, oh, how can we keep our cards that we've got now and bring them forward? And so they started producing what was called these living or sets that you can download online through a website. And it would have overlays that you could put in front of cards that would change the text within the card for keeping the same thickness of the card, the same type of card, but changing the actual game text and the way that it is costed so that you can play it in a different fashion. And that's still going on today. Their most recent set had things like Ghost Crew come out. That's only just come out very recently. I would not be surprised if they start bringing out some cards for the likes of the Bad Batch soon. I know there was a few going back a year or so ago of Ahsoka as well coming through. That's just one example of a game, Star Wars, continuing on past the closure or the way the company has stopped supporting it. Another company, Games Workshop, has had numerous games that they have discontinued at one point or another, only to bring it back 30, 40 years later. Blood Bowl, Necromunda, Battlefleet Gothic. Some of these worked, others didn't, but the fact of the matter is that with the likes of Blood Bowl and Necromunda, again, it was brought up by the community. They produced living rule books. They kept on producing content that was available through Reddit or through Discord, through newsletters that they were producing. It was all community based. So why can't we do the same thing to Star Wars Armada, Star Wars X-Wing? There's no reason why we can't. How can we do it? Well, we have to organize. We have to actually go forth and think of the things that we can do as a community to bridge the gap. Some of the things that have already been mentioned by Craddock and other community leaders in this game industry is get some people together. Get them to use a central hub or a website, something that they can use to disseminate information not only within their gaming community but across the world. Does this mean that I'm going to ring up the phone, ring up the devs of Iron Radio or on Craddock or any of the other people and say, hey, I think this is a really good idea? Probably not. Why? I'm in Australia. I am far away from many gamers. I will probably talk content with my local players here and make rules up, balance as much as possible, but that's only on casual play. But we have resources. We have things like Iron Radio. We have Grey Matter Gaming. We have Grey Squadron Gaming, I should say. We have Craddock. We have a lot of people out there that can help to develop the systems that we need as a community going forward. We also have 3D printers. A lot of people have 3D printers these days. Myself, I don't have one yet. I'd love to have one, but I really need to learn how to use one first. But there are a lot of people that are out there that have them that print up or sell STLs of the designs that you may need. You have things like game models from the likes of Empire at War or old Battlefleet, Star Wars Battlefleet. You have things from the movies or Star Wars Rebels. Heck, you even have the original Star Wars miniature battles that was brought out by WizKids. Now this model is from that set and it ties in nicely in shape. May not conform correctly, and it may be, I usually run this as a Nebula B2, but still, you have models out there, you have options out there. You have also lots of other people that are now repainting their their miniatures. So this is obviously the Profundi that I have repainted as Rebel 1. Looks pretty good to me, but you can do the same thing with Victory class Star Destroyers, paint them up as your Separatist. Or you could also paint it all red and use it as Errant Venture from the expanded universe. Same thing with a lot of the more generic 3D print. There are a lot of different places that you can potentially to get more content for your Armada and even for your X-Wing. That gives you the miniature, doesn't give you a card or a basis. Now, it's fairly easy to run something like an assault frigate as your Mark II assault frigate. No problem there. Swap a miniature in and say, yeah, I'm going to use the same rules. No problem with that as casual play. If you wanted to use it as the variant, having more broadsides than it is front, well, that's when you need something or a card that is different. You also need your base plates. But we do have a site. It's currently still being worked on, and I would encourage, and I plan on trying to put some money in next week into getting that site up and running. Don't know how much yet, but I'll see. Which is KDY Shipyards. They have already got a plethora of different card types, different ideas for ships, but it's only ideas. What we as a community need to do or a council of elders, council of wise men and women, a moth's table maybe, who knows what title that they would use for themselves, but we need someone or a group of someones to look through and say, this is balanced to our existing system. And therefore, when we decide that we need to go forward with those systems, then we can make it easier. It also is an important fact that if we get the cards printed out, miniatures printed out, it means that long-term wise, say 10 years from now, we'll have entire fleets made up of 3D printed. And that means that when we start looking at tournaments organizers will need to recognize that with the discontinuation, if they still want to do tournaments, then they will need to look at how they're going to do prize support, or alternatively, how they're going to rule what is authorized in terms of the cards, in terms of their expansions, in terms of the models. And that can be done in multiple ways. We've had in Magic the Gathering card games, you have sealed options or official sanctums, whereby you're only allowed to play with the set. So those that have been issued and not on the ban list. Then you've got an open section where you can play anything as long as it's not too overpowered. Not, again, not on the ban list, but enough that it is on a, this is reasonably fair list. Maybe we could do something with that on KD Shipyards. Have it so that this card can be played in tournaments and have an agreement by a Moth's Council. Actually, I don't mind the sound of Moth's Council or an Admiralty Council to look at those cards and to say, this fits with the game, this is okay for tournaments. And yeah, this is where you get things like beta testers going in. Certainly use KD Shipyards to make the information, but then be able in KD Shipyards or through one of the other systems like Tater's fleet build or whatever, to be able to put a stamp on it and say, this is the one that you should be using. For example, one of my models is a combat headhunter from Rogue One. When I looked online with KD Shipyards, there were about 8 variants of this one. Now, yes, theoretically, there is the 2 original ones that came with the actual Fantasy Flight Games Headhunter, but then this one is slightly different because it's got an extra gun, couple of gun ports in it, and an extra engine. So, changed it up slightly. Rubber stamp it to say that these 2 variants of the model are good to play with the system. You have a lot of ideas out there in the community. Some can be very overpowered, some can be ridiculous. Things like this Venerator, heavy cruiser. I've seen versions of it that have the same battle stat line as basically the Interdictor cruiser. Fair. But then I've had others that I've seen that are ridiculous, that seem to be like doubling the amount of weapon ports on each side, which isn't fair for a really low cost. Again, really not fair. But if we had a system where the moderators can say that this fits well in this circumstances, that's fine. And let's not forget that with the closure of these games, it means that the 3D printing industry, those people that do this sort of content, are now going to be faced with 2 options. One, finding other jobs that they can potentially do for other game systems, or alternatively looking at getting out of the industry. And we don't want to lose anyone in many ways. We don't want to have people leave the industry or just falling out of love with the industry. So give our support to the 3D printers. We have a lot of people that will now go out and buy these sorts of things. 5-10 years, they'll still be out there. But there's going to be some issues. Tokens, well, we've got a couple of stores out there that sell specialty tokens for the Armadas and for X-Wing and for Legion even. What we don't have is unfortunately too many stores that do dice. And this is probably something that many of us will need to look into going future-wise to find where can we get dice that is of a similar shape, similar size, similar iconography on each of the dice to fit in. Do we keep to the traditional D8s like we do? I would hope so. I think the D8s is very fair. And we do have, I know with X-Wing, there are some 3D markets out there doing different dice colorations. They still do them in the green and red, but there's some that have the more glitter, some have different colors, and the same shape. We need those types of people to get on board and get the frames or the stills of the dice for Armada, so that going forward, if we want more dice, it's out there. How and when, as a community, we can get this all done, who knows? I would imagine that probably right now, everyone at the moment is thinking of two things. One, do we want to sell out of this game? Get rid of it, sell it, make a profit, and then go on to the next big thing. Other people will be saying, I want to keep my models, I like the game, I'll still continue. There is enough of a support system in my local industry area to play the games. Myself, I'm going to keep both of them because I think X-Wing is an excellent game as a starting point for players to get into to see a game. It is a great demonstration game, and I just think that in many ways we will see an X-Wing type game in about 5 years' time, maybe 10 years, simply because everyone likes the idea of dogfighting. Everyone likes the idea of being like Wedge Antilles or Biggs or Luke or Darth playing this sort of game. Armada, I do think that it'll continue as a community. Certainly we will lose some in the in-between times. And for those people that do decide to get out of the industry, you will need to think about how you move on your collection. One, you can sell it as a group lot. And in many ways, you would be very lucky to find people that are willing to spend thousands of dollars on getting full collections. Many people will only be looking for, oh, I cannot buy that one model anymore. I want to get that one model before they're all out. But I don't want to buy 100 other models just to get that one model. So you may find selling individual parts, as long as they're complete, may be more profitable for you. Again, it is your choice, and how you do it, whether it be by Facebook Marketplace or by eBay, is entirely up to you. It is important to note, if you go through either of those systems to sell off your collection, make sure that you've got as much of the content and the photographs of those models on your adverts to explain what it is, whether or not you've done a repaint job, whether or not it is a 3D printed model, whether or not it is an official model, etc. And make sure that you communicate with whoever you're selling to very openly and honestly to say, I've got all the parts, or I'm missing a ship die. But that's about it for my little rant. I will end this. Star Wars Legion is still going strong, and I'm still painting my Imperials, and I should have another video up very soon on that. Star Wars Armada, obviously I'm going to keep, and I'll probably do some more content on that in the next couple of months when I start my next campaign. Star Wars X-Wing, it's pretty much going to be rested now until I get some more feedback for directions at PAX, OzPAX. I will be at PAX this year and hopefully get to do a few more videos while I'm around. More so concentrating on Battletech as well as a few other things that I've got going on there. But I'll be trying to have a look at the 3D printers myself while I'm there, see whether or not what's going to be the more, I guess, not expensive, more practical version to get to be able to do these types of models myself. Anywho, that's it for this little rant. Please like, please subscribe, please leave a comment if you're interested in this video or any other of my content. And I will see you on the table next time. Bye for now.